All right, so we're here at Whitcomb Bayou in Tarpon Springs, Florida. Got our property across the street, 603 Virginia Avenue. Going to be sold on the 28th of June. So for those locally who have been driving by wondering where the sign went, it's going to be sold, but it's going to be sold on auction. Worth listening if you're a seller who's motivated or if you got a unique property. I'm here with a colleague with Coldwell Banker, part of the auction team, Vince Gepp. Going to go through how we got to where we did with this property, and then the process over the next 3 weeks. And then as you think about, as a buyer, how the process is going to go, but also as a seller, how the process goes. So we'll get started. A little background on the property. Had impact last fall from Hurricane Helene. Had it on the market in December. Obviously, we're about 180 days in. We're under contract with an investor. They were looking at building a new construction there. Well, didn't work out. Back on the market. Obviously, just kind of sitting there, having some folks interested. But the beauty of an auction is you're going to have sellers or buyers are going to be there on the 28th to buy the place. So with that, the seller thought about it and introduced them to Vince. And that's how we got to where we are with the property. And as we look forward, Vince, in the coming days here, why does this work for buyers? And then two, why does it work for sellers and meet their objectives?
I think number one, in any real estate market, there's always buyers and sellers. Things are always moving. How quickly they move, how efficiently they move, and how much money they move for, those are the variables. Auctions have stood the test of time. It's one of the oldest businesses in the world since the beginning of time. Take a product, whether it be a home, a car, art, put it in front of multiple buyers that have an interest in that in that item, and make them compete for the price. With auctions of real estate specifically, the sellers get to choose the day that they're going to sell the property. They put it out there for the buyers to come and make the buyers compete to give them the contract, and that can't happen in a regular conventional real estate market. Regular conventional real estate market, sellers are submitting bids with multiple contingencies, all of which give them an opportunity to, number one, renegotiate the agreed upon terms or finances, or number two, they can back out of the contract. With sellers want to know what they have is real.
Right.
I've been working for over 20 years with the young guy, Steve Dorn. From our perspective, we have to be able to give the sellers a minimum price. And a minimum price is where we begin the advertising and the marketing. That price has to be at least perceived to be achievable by all parties looking for that typical piece of property on that day. Once we do that, we bring the people together, we make them compete for it, and then it goes to contract in a 3-week period of time. That's how we work.
Okay, so in that 3-week period of time, so now you've got this property represents maybe a restoration for somebody or a new construction with this view behind us. Over the next 3 weeks, what does that process look like? If you're a buyer who's doing their homework, how do they do that homework and go through the process?
One of the most, or if not the most commonly asked question about buying a piece of real estate at auction is, how do I know if I buy it? There's no mortgage, there's no back taxes, there's no IRS lien, there's no municipal mortgages. With that being the case, what we do initially before we even take the project to the open market is we make sure that we're able to bring the property to the seller and then to the buyer free and clear of all liens or encumbrances. No back taxes, no unpaid mortgage. We don't expect the typical buyer to be able to go through that process as efficiently as we do. So since we know that's one of the most important things, we take care of that up front. So first and foremost, title issues, make sure they're resolved. Secondly, we go on all the different websites. Coldwell Banker is arguably the largest real estate company in the world.
Largest in Tampa Bay.
At least Tampa Bay.
Yes.
So we put it on the market, and it goes on the market with a definitive day. It says in 21 days, at this time, on this day, this property will be sold. People can come and look at the property. That's another misconception, that you can't see the property. We make sure that the property is open for the buyers to look at it. Once they see it, they can come up with how much they want to spend on it, or they can consult somebody else to give them that kind of information. They can come back and do an inspection. We let them inspect anything they want. All due diligence is required to be done prior to the day of the sale, and we will assist in any way that we can. So marketing of the property, education of the buyer as to what his responsibility or her responsibility is to participate in the auction, and making sure that we can deliver it free and clear. That's what goes on for 3 weeks.
Okay, so then we get to that Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, right?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. on the 28th. So it's open to the public to watch,
Yep.
right? But if I'm a buyer, tell me what goes on that morning and then what I can expect.
So a lot of people that talk about auctions, most buyers want a good deal. There's that. I mean, that's why they come to an auction. They're coming because they want to get a good value for what they're buying at that moment in time. We make participating in our auctions very, very, very simple. We don't require a lot of the things that are difficult for people to get. We don't require certified funds. We don't require letters of approval and all that kind of stuff. If somebody wants to participate, most of our auctions take place at 10 a.m. on Saturday, but there are times, so make sure you check. What we do on auction day is at 9 a.m., we open the home up. People will come and they'll register right there on site. They can look through the home once again. They come back to the registration table. They show us that they have a photo ID with them. They show us that they have a blank personal or business check, just a blank check, like a regular checkbook.
And that's the deposit?
That's what they'll use if they win, only from the winner.
Okay.
So they show us the photo ID, they show us the check, there they get a bidder's card. At 10 o'clock sharp, everybody with a bidder's card and anybody else who's interested in observing, maybe somebody has a house they want to consider an auction for, we let them see the process. Maybe somebody's a neighbor and they're just interested because they want to know the value of their property. But we let people observe, it's fair. So at 10 o'clock, we turn the microphone on, we turn the recording device on, so we make sure that everything is nice and tight in case there's any questions of anything. And we go from the opening bid, we say, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Shout out the opening bid, and we go through the old-fashioned auction process. Banging a gavel, calling out the numbers, and the buyers are giving us bid increments. We do that process until we get to the last and final bid. And just like you see on the movies, going once, going twice, bang, sold. The last and highest bidder goes to contract. They'll use that blank personal check that they showed us to write a 5% deposit. That goes towards their purchase price. There's no buyer's premium, no auction fee, nothing else like that. Whatever you raise your bidder card to, that's your contract price. Once that takes place, a lot of people think you cannot use financing at auctions. We are very, very unique, and what we do is we authorize or allow the buyers a 30-day close. During the day, from the day of the auction, 30 days later, they should be able to get a mortgage. If for some reason they can't get a mortgage, we're authorized 2 7-day extensions to overcome anything that they may need. It's really important to make sure once the due diligence period we talk about during the marketing phase, the buyer has to make sure they're prepared to participate.
Right.
They should make sure that they have their finances in order. In this instance, somebody may remodel that home and keep it just that way. Somebody may want to knock the home down and build something new. That requires them to be ready to know what they can do and what they're willing to do, because on auction day, we're gonna hold the buyer,
and somebody's going to own that place.
Somebody's going to own it. We're going to hold them to the standard. But that's what the auction is, and you can't argue it. It's been marketed, it's been available to be previewed, it's been researchable. Then the market comes that day. You can't argue with the result. It's the most efficient way for a seller to sell and the most efficient way for a buyer to buy that I'm aware of.
All right, so now you got buyers as well as potentially sellers all geeked up, ready to go. How do they get information on getting to see this property and this auction?
Easiest thing to do is we're Coldwell Banker. We're on Realtor.com. We're on Zillow. We're on all the big sites. The typical thing to do is if you drive by a property and you see our sign, just call us directly. Our name is on there. Everything is on there. My telephone number, I'll give it to you twice, 727-481-7042. Once again, 727-481-7042. We don't work exclusively with Coldwell Banker agents. We work primarily with Coldwell Banker agents, but we also work with Remax, Keller Williams, Century 21, Smith & Associates, all the other, we work for them. So if you're a real estate agent and you like what you see at one of our auctions, you're perfectly welcome to pick up the phone and call us as well, and we'll explain how we participate with you. About 50% of our work comes from people directly and from brokers of other agencies. Auctions with an S, auctionsfla.com is our website. Simple as that, AUCTIONSFLA.com. You can look at us that way and come and observe one of our auctions one day.
And we got 603 Virginia Avenue on the 28th of June. Again, 603 Virginia Avenue in Tarpon Springs. Find out more when you look online. Hopefully you guys found this useful. Feel free to reach out if we can be of assistance. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much.